Section 11 of Ads and Sales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by William Jones, Bonita Springs, Florida. Ads and Sales. A study of advertising and selling from the standpoint of the New Principles of Scientific Management by Herbert Newton Casson. An Analysis of Current Advertising, Part 3. The Bulletin Advertisement. This is a very simple and effective form. It is an announcement of some fact that concerns the advertiser or his goods. It has the interest and the force of news. Usually it is not well written. It is too heavy and dignified, but if it were written by a first-class reporter, it would be read by almost everyone and produce telling results. It is a bulletin ad when the Remington Arms Company announces its 93rd birthday, or when the American Telegraph and Telephone Company announces the cooperation of the Bell Telephone and the Western Union Telegraph. It is a bulletin ad when the Eaton Hurlburt Paper Company announces the winner of a contest in which 30,134 people took part, in which $1,730 was paid for the best letters on Eaton hot-pressed vellum. Most advertisements of world tours are of the bulletin species, usually illustrated by a picture of the ship or of a scene in a foreign country. When Francis H. Leggett and Company published a telegram sent by it to President Taft, endorsing Wiley as the great champion of pure food, it used the bulletin type of advertising with good effect. An example of the pompous style of bulletin, which totally spoils the news effect, was shown by the National Casket Company. It announced that it was about to advertise so that the public might know how its broad, progressive, enlightening policy identifies with national products funeral directors of highest principle and ability everywhere. In such an advertisement, the news is swallowed up in the brag. Naturally, this type of advertising can only be used on special occasions. To use it too often is to reduce its force. When Frank A. Munsey, for instance, printed a bulletin on the cover page of Munsey's, announcing that this was the best issue of the magazine that he had ever produced, the result was electrical. But had he printed a similar bulletin several months later, there would have been little result, and the effect of the first one would have been spoiled. Many firms that advertise a new idea or a new commodity fail to put their advertisement into the form of a bulletin. They lose the news effect to which they are entitled. The Hodgson brothers, for example, in their very well-written ads, fail to make the full use of the novelty of their service. There is news and novelty in the fact that one firm can plan, build, decorate, and furnish your house, yet the ad writer of the firm assumes that Hodgson method is well known and commonplace. The heartthrob advertisement. Here we have an appeal to some tender emotion, the love of the mother for her child, for instance, or the love of a young man for his bride. It is wholly an appeal to feeling and is invariably illustrated by a picture of sentiment. In advertisements designed for women, this form of advertisement is sure and effective. It should be used much oftener than it is. One of the best ads of this type is the one used by Kellogg Toasted Corn Flakes. A picture of a sweet-faced girl clasping a sheaf of corn, and this headline, "The Sweetheart of the Corn." And one of the silliest ads of this type is one used by the same firm, which shows a picture of a simpering girl, a cluster of flowers, and a package of cornflakes with this headline, "3 Daisies." The heartthrob species is used with fine taste in the advertising of Jell-O. The illustrations of an artist of sentiment, Rose O'Neill, with faces that are real and fascinating, show what can be done in the way of making advertisements of human interest. Some of the ads of the Edison phonograph, too, showing a family listening in a darkened room to the music of the phonograph, have a very effective sentimental interest. We find the heartthrob style used not only by the Mellons Food Company and the Springfield Metallic Casket Company, which seem to be rightfully entitled to it, but also by other companies that sell non-sentimental goods. The American Radiator Company, for instance, pictures a newly married couple standing inside a wedding ring and gazing at a radiator. The Anderson Electric Car Company shows one of its cars outside a church just as the bridal couple are about to enter it. The Waterman Company has even thrown a glamour of sentiment around its pen by portraying it as the go-between, having the fellow on one side and the girl on the other. Each is writing to the other with a Waterman pen. And the Washburn Crosby Company comes close to having a heartthrob advertisement when it prints a picture of a pretty child with long curls using real flour to make her cake. Glad hand advertisement. As the heartthrob is mainly for women, so this style is mainly for men. It is anecdotal, conversational, and often slangy. There is no dignity in it and very little information, but it looks interesting and sociable. Its language is breezy and convivial, and it is such a relief from the ordinary dull and stale advertisement that it is often very effective and a quick sale maker. Sometimes it is no more than a funny story. The Colgate Company tells of the small boy who said to the dentist that he wished the tube of dental cream were 3 feet long. The Gillette Company tells of an incident on a sleeping car when an unfortunate young bridegroom has had to go for 3 days without a shave. And the Red Raven Company gives a conversation between a father and a son, the son having been at a banquet the night before and escaped the after effects by taking a dose of Red Raven. This style seems to be especially popular in the advertising of tobacco and cigars. The R.A. Patterson Tobacco Company has been using it to a slight extent in the advertising of its Lucky Strike tobacco, getting the glad hand effect mainly from the illustrations. The R.J. Reynolds Company has been using it to the fullest extent, pouring out such a spatter of slangy talk as has seldom been seen in any national publication. Several of its headlines were as follows: "Well, well, this sure is stacking up against a good thing." "Here's tobacco that sure strikes." "Old man, here's the grandest tobacco I ever did smoke." There is a decent limit, of course, to this sort of thing. An advertisement can be sociable without telling you to beat it while your shoes are still good to the corner smokery and swap 10 cents for a joy smoke. The Gentle Rain advertisement. This is a most admirable and effective species. It is not startling nor unique nor powerful, but neither is it dull nor uninteresting. It does its work quietly without breaking any records or making any fuss. It must appear often to produce good results. A single insertion is of little value. Used persistently, it is sure to create business. It is like the gentle rain, not like the heavy downpour, and it will always produce a crop if it comes down often enough. This class of advertisement usually portrays some better way, some finer convenience. It slowly builds up desire in the minds of the readers. It comes to people from their own point of view. It does not bore you with shop talk or try to din a trademark into your ears. It just shows you something nice and makes you want it. It has often taken a luxury and taught the nation to regard it as a necessity of refined living. The advertisements of the Standard Sanitary Manufacturing Company are excellent specimens of this sort. Its pictures of dainty bathrooms with ladies in pretty night dresses and kimonos having their hair dressed have been irresistibly attractive to feminine readers. Almost all the recent advertisements of the Ivory Soap Company, too, have been of the gentle rain type. In one ad, a lady is shown cleaning her piano with this soap. In another, she is scouring a white parasol. In a third, she is renovating a soiled pair of kid gloves. And in a fourth, she is washing the baby. The gentle rain type teaches people more luxurious habits. The General Electric Company shows a picture of a man sleeping soundly on an August night because of an electric fan on his bureau. The Macy Company paints a series of well-arranged parlors, each having as a central feature a Macy book cabinet. The Western Union lures you into the night letter habit by a series of wife and family sketches. And under the mild but steady influence of this species of advertising, the American public is slowly learning to buy fireless cookers, electric flat irons, vacuum cleaners, piano players, phonographs, etc. The lingo advertisement. This is the sort that belongs in a trade paper, if it belongs anywhere. It is generally not illustrated, and its copy is all shop talk, the jargon of that one corporation or of the trade. It does not belong in any popular magazine and has no interest of any kind for the general public. It has the appearance of being written by the engineer or the bookkeeper. It is always prosy, technical, and packed with self-praise. The name of the article or of the company is repeated over and over in these advertisements as though it were a fetish. In one lingo ad, for example, used by the Burroughs Adding Company, its name is repeated 17 times, and in one-page advertisement of Mayhew Furniture, the name Mayhew is repeated 32 times. The writer of the lingo ad never thinks of his audience. His aim is to satisfy the technical expert of his own firm, apparently. Speaking to the readers of Munsey's, for instance, the Dodge Manufacturing Company recommends its Dodge Standard iron split pulleys with interchangeable bushings. And the Hupmobile Company, speaking to the readers of the Saturday Evening Post, announces that its cars have 4 pinions on the differential, adjustable bowl housings for the universal joint, and that its radius rods have square lock nuts on the transmission ends. Needless to say, the lingo ad is not worth its cost, usually not 1/10 of its cost. It is a misfit. It is not really an advertisement at all, but only a mess of shop talk hashed to the proper size by men who have no conception of the nature or function of an advertisement. The catalog advertisement. This is an improvement over the lingo species, as it is always illustrated with a picture of the goods, and as it generally has descriptive matter only, it has the appearance of having been taken literally from a trade catalog. It has no fads and frills. It is the simplest of the simple and the plainest of the plain. An immense number of advertisements are of this nature. Most ads of silverware, tools, engines, boots, shirts, collars, garters, and even Kodaks and furniture are apt to be of the catalog variety. There is no valid reason why this should be so, as this form of advertising is not very effective. It reaches few except those who are already inclined to buy. but it persists because it is easy to make. It has the negative virtues, and for those who are afraid of originality and cleverness, it seems to be highly satisfactory. It is one of the oddities of present-day advertising that able men of business, careful about all other expenses, are so wasteful in paying money for these inefficient advertisements. No ad seems to be too uninteresting, too crude, too trivial, to be scattered abroad in dozens of magazines at enormous expense. There are no worthwhile results from these homemade advertisements. They cannot compete with the work of professionals. They survive not because they are in any sense fit, but because there are still many businessmen who have no appreciation of the possibilities of advertising. The cartoon advertisement. Here we may see advertising of the highest quality. Here we have not merely a heap of raw materials, but an attempt to shape the raw materials into pictorial form that is attractive and easily remembered. This type of advertisement cannot be made by the engineer or the bookkeeper or one of the clerks. It can only be made by a man of imagination. At its best, it can only be made by an advertising genius. To make a large idea simple and noticeable, there is no other species of publicity that can compare with the cartoon. Its effect upon the public mind is tremendous. Cartoons have won elections, changed national policies, overthrown political leaders, and deflected the whole national current of thought. Let the cartoonists in any self-governing nation unite for 1 month in assailing the existing government, and that government will be overthrown. The power of the cartoon is not fully recognized in advertising circles. It is more often used merely as a picture than as an appeal and an argument. It is not as confidently relied upon as it can be. Advertisings of the old-fashioned type do not take it seriously and often prefer a dull and worthless page of shop talk to a clever and convincing cartoon. One of the simplest kinds of cartoon advertisements is the picture of a blackboard on which a fact or sum is displayed. This is crude, yet it is used by the salesman of Peter's Chocolate and the Gillette Razor. Another very simple kind is the picture of the article itself, with one or more people pointing out its good qualities. This primitive type is widely used. It is better than the catalog species, as it adds a trifle of human interest to the picture. The Singer's Sewing Machine Company pictures a machine with its lady owner displaying its handiness to a visitor. The Warner Autometer Company shows an automobile with a bystander pointing to the Warner meter. The Standard Oil Company has one that is slightly better than this. To advertise Polarine, it shows an automobile, then following an arrow pointer, an auto engine, then a picture of a cylinder, and finally an oil can. The idea conveyed by this series of 4 pictures is that you can trace many automobile troubles back to the oil can, and therefore ought to use the best quality of oil. A better grade of cartoon ad is made by showing the article itself, but with some fanciful illustrative idea added to it. The Snyder Preserve Company, for instance, has an athletic young girl drawn on top of a pork and beans can. The Abbott Detroit Motor Company has a picture of its car literally spanning a map of the United States. And the Victor Company has a photo of one of its machines, into which are woven the faces of 28 opera singers. Sometimes the article itself is used in a fanciful way. The Smith Premier Company has a picture of a globe on which the continents are constructed by the grouping of big and little typewriters, the headline being Worldwide Distribution. The American Telephone and Telegraph Company shows a bell system sign with the headline, "The Signboard of Civilization." And the Burroughs Adding Machine Company has a very effective picture of a mass of letters and papers falling from a desk and being caught by an adding machine. Its headline is, "Shift This Burden to the Burroughs." The higher types of cartoon ads are those that do not give a picture of the article itself, but a cartoon that tells the idea of the article from the point of view of the public. The Ulster Company shows a row of people walking to business, half of them bright-faced and the other tired and sleepy. Underneath is the headline, "Pick out the Ulster sleepers." The Peck Williamson Company shows the ghost of winter being chased away by the thought of an underfeed heating system. And the Postum Cereal Company, which is especially fond of cartoons, shows a lighthouse that warns human ships away from the rocks of coffee. End of section 11.